Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It is time once again for an episode of Bunker Boys. We're going to wrap up the Masters for you, and what an amazing tournament we had, even with all the weather delays and all that fun stuff. And then, of course, as always, we're going to get you ready for the RBC Heritage tournament this weekend at Hilton Head. And then we're also going to talk about the PGA released their fall schedule. So we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. But without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. As always, got to bring up our sponsor, Dubby. Head over to dubby.gg, use code JACKWAGON for 10% off your order. I love this stuff, especially as a new parent. It's hard to get awake most days. And dubby.gg, head over there, get your Dubby, 10% off with code JACKWAGON. But yeah, let's go ahead. Let's talk about the Masters and get that out of the way. We have a lot to talk about here. Um, Crazy weather all weekend. We had trees falling during the tournament on Friday. Weather delayed twice into Friday, or I think it was delayed twice Friday, pushed it to Saturday, and then it just had one big rainstorm Saturday afternoon. And they're like, yeah, you know what, we're done. We're not even going to try and start back up.
Yeah,
Pushed it
because of
to
the trees.
Yeah, well that too. But pushed it to a Sunday. Finished round three Sunday morning. We were talking. We didn't think there was going to be any way that they were going to finish the fourth round. Patrick Cantlay tried to make sure that happened, but we'll talk about that here in a minute as well. But shout out to the grounds crew. We know that PGA professional grounds crews across the country do a great job week in week out, but we know Augusta is just another level up. But the fact that they were able to get playing conditions and everything ready to go Sunday morning, and then having the transition as everybody's playing golf. It was a super fast turnaround. I think it was only an hour and a half from when the final group came in Sunday morning that they were able to get everybody back out and start round four. So that was amazing to see. And then, of course, we get our normal Sunday finish for the Masters then. Uh, Not filled with any lack of drama. Brooks Koepka comes in with a two-stroke lead over John Rahm, three strokes over Victor Hovland. We thought it was going to be a great race to the finish. Koepka just gets no momentum together. Your bet kind of falls apart. But Rahm is able to weather it all. I think he went to the back nine with a one-stroke lead.
Mhm.
And then from there, it was okay. Let's just play, conservative. Let's play our game. And then Brooks made a few more mistakes to start the back nine. All of a sudden, you're looking at John Rahm with a three-stroke lead. His caddy, I know they were talking about it multiple times. He's like, "Okay, let's do this," and his caddy's like, "No, like you were gonna lay up here, and we're gonna take it easy. Like we're not doing anything ridiculous." Which is what it's nice to have that voice in the back of your head in those moments because it's hard not to be like, "Okay, the green's right there. I know I can reach it." And then next thing you know, you're like Jordan Spieth in 2016. You shank it, and you're in the water, and then your shots or your day's ruined. Um, but I want to get your thoughts on the finish to the Masters and everything before we dive into more.
Yeah, so obviously I should have cashed out. I think the highest it had gotten to was like $70 cash out on a $5 bet. But I think two two crazy things. One is the trees falling and not hit anyone is the craziest thing to happen. I mean, three trees fall in the same kind of area, and I mean, these are big trees. They're not like little trees that like, oh, you hear it crack and whatever. Like these trees are pulling up the entire roots out of the ground. Like it's enough that if there's an old person sitting in a chair underneath this tree, it'll lift them up and through them. But that was the craziest thing to happen, I think. The second craziest thing is the 24 hours that Brooke Koepka had because he went from being four up to three down all in 24 hours, which is just
Yeah.
a crazy swing of events. Like you said, he just couldn't get anything going. Um, he, I think, would have been a good sport, win or lose in that situation. I really like once everyone brought it to national attention that the live guys were for sure seeing way less TV time than the PGA Tour guys because
Mhm.
Brooks was leading and you're not seeing him play at all, which is
Yeah.
something we've never seen before. Like
Yeah.
even if you would have had I don't know, some random person freaking what's the dude that Kevin Na.
Yeah.
Even when Kevin Na was in the PGA, if he was leading, you'd have seen him. Like
Mhm.
whatever. But yeah, I thought it was crazy at first that that had happened, that they weren't videoing them at all. And then, I mean, I think that there was some real class out of both Brooks and Phil. I expected Phil to be very like
Arrogant.
smartass. Yeah,
Yeah.
arrogant smartass. Like he's literally had the world hate him now for over a year, the golf world basically, and because it's Norman and Mickelson that headed this whole thing
Right.
in the eyes of everyone in the PGA. So, yeah, I just was really really surprised to see both of them carry themselves that way, and it really shows that they really made these moves because it's what fits their lifestyle better. They got a
Mhm.
big hunk of cash right up front, and they get to play less. They get to be at home with their family, which for Mickelson sounds perfect. For Koepka at the time, who was hurt, sounds perfect also. Seeing what he was able to do though out there at the Masters after not really um, being on the same tour schedule that he was used to previously and being
Right.
healthy, I'm sure that there is something in the back of his head that, you know, if he knew there was a chance for him getting back to 100%, I wonder if he still would have made the move.
Yeah. We're gonna talk more about Liv in a second, but I the jokes crept in, and I wonder though if it did kind of creep into the back of his mind. Obviously, he had the 54 hole lead
Mhm.
and then did not finish as strong as he wanted to. So a lot of jokes were made. Well, he played the
And
first 3 days really well. Yeah,
the person to lead at 36 holes by no, the person to be in the lead with double digits after 36 holes and lose. Only one person, and they've done it twice. Greg Norman,
yeah. At the
yeah, Brooks
Yeah, I
Koepka.
believe it was the 98 Masters and I think, like, the 99 Open or something like that. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, that was definitely in the back of my mind too. I was like, I mean, how poetic would that be that, the founder of Live, has his record matched now by a Live player. But one thing I do want to talk about before we move on, for me, this win for Rahm was kind of out of nowhere. And again, I understand he was up there as one of the best players in the world. He's all we talked about all spring. I mean, you and I had talked about, and Nick as well, at length of it was almost like what was driving me to not like Rahm as much. Like I appreciate Rahm. I understand how good of a golfer he is, and I'm not hating him for that. But just how much the announcers were just cramming him, like himself, down our throats the first few months there. Oh my God, he's so good. It's utter Rama Nation out there, and Rombo. And I understand Rombo's his nickname, but just when they say it, it just like pierces my ears. I'm like, this is so annoying. Um, but, I mean, he withdrew from the players, he did not look good at all at match play.
mm,
Got beat by, a down Ricky Fowler, who's on the comeback, but nowhere near what anybody would think the level, Ricky matching or and beating John Rahm. And then just the last few weeks, ever since his win at Riviera, has just not looked good, has not been consistent. He went to the Arnold Palmer, played a really good, first round and a half, and then all of a sudden kind of fell apart, and we didn't see him for the rest of the weekend, really. Again, we just talked about the players he had to withdraw from a sickness, and then match play didn't look that good. So my expectations for him coming into the Masters was not very high at all. Like I thought, he'd be competitive. He's always been good at the Masters, top 10, like we saw a lot of other guys this week. But I didn't, have him winning. So I mean, shout out to him. Me and just think about Brooks before we get fully into the live. I mean, you could see it early. The luck and the bounces were not going his way, and he talked about that too in his press conference. But then he gets to the back nine. He's all right. I'm down, 3, 4 strokes here, and you could tell he just started trying to play hero ball. He's like, okay, I got to get it there here, and that's when it started amplifying his mistakes. Yeah, he got a couple, strokes here and there, made a couple really good shots, but you could tell he was just trying to do too much, and at that point, it was starting to hurt. And it was too late. Uh, but let's go ahead. Let's talk about Live. And so they had 12 of 18 players make the cut this week. Um, Nick and I were talking about this over the weekend because Nick was kind of downplaying how good Liv looked. And I thought if anything, it made Liv look a lot better than people had thought coming in. I think this will help Liv get more coverage to sit there and say, "Hey, we only sent 18 guys there, and 12 of our guys made the cut. We had 3 guys inside the top 5. One of them was obviously in very good contention. One of them posted the best rounds of the day. And here we are. And Nick was kind of taking the point of like, ah, well, it's only those 3 guys, and I don't. But I think if anything, it's saying, hey, we're not playing serious golf. Is how I'll put it. For most of the year, yeah, we still got to go do DP World Tour events and stuff so we can get points, so we can qualify for things like the Masters and so on. But the fact that we're able to show up here and be so rusty and not have this competitive edge that you guys say that we lack, and then we show up, we put 3 guys inside the top 5. I thought spoke volumes of Live. For Phil, I don't think, first of all, nobody expected this. We were making jokes that he wasn't even going to make the cut, and here he is. He finishes tied for second. This is his first appearance at the Masters since 2021, where he finished tied for 21st at even. Um, I mean, the last time we saw Phil play in a PGA event, he just looked horrible. I believe it was the U.S. Open last year, or might have been
Mhm.
the Open Championship. But I mean, he was confident and saying how good and how well he's been playing lately. I don't think anybody believed it, and then all of a sudden we're looking at the leaderboard Sunday, and his name's jumping up and up and up. But your thoughts on Live at the Masters?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they showed up this weekend. I mean, this was the biggest marketing tool that Liv could use. They've had all the money spent in the world that they could on all these players, and it didn't really bring the attention that they were expecting to their tour, even with the contract rights this year for more televised events, a little bit easier for people to visualize it and stuff like that. Um, we've seen videos of the tournaments and how there's like 20 people and they just travel with like the three big name guys, and that's where the crowd is the entire tournament. But I mean, Phil to go out and shoot the round that he did, they said that it tied his best round of his career, which was 20 years prior to that day.
Mhm.
It's just crazy. I mean, the only way that this could have been worse for golf in the way that Liv performed in PGA's eyes, like the way the
Mhm.
PGA looks at golf, the only way this could have been worse is if Mickelson and Tiger would have got paired up when Tiger's out there limping around in
Yeah.
bunkers all day, and Mickelson is in the fairway every shot, just hitting it, just out there playing easy ball.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
I,
yeah,
yeah, go
I was
for it.
just gonna say, like, I mean, not that it was surprising to see Phil play so well at Augusta, just because he loves this place so much. Has won here 3 times. I mean, obviously, it's like Tiger when he's healthy is even we saw it kind of in round 1 from Tiger, just how natural the course kinda comes to them. And so I wasn't surprised to see Phil have a couple good rounds or, a couple good shots here and there, but seeing him shoot a 68, I thought was just absurd, and I did not see that coming, especially with the weather he had to deal with on Friday and Saturday. I kind of thought that, if anywhere, was gonna be where a lot of those guys fell off, and surprisingly enough, we saw some of the guys fall off, but it was DeChambeau, it was Bubba Watson, um, kind of, I would say the lesser names over there. I mean, obviously, they're the ones that got paid huge money to leave, and go to Live, but, I think Bubba is more adept in comforting in the fact that he's like, "Hey, I know I'm not as good as I once was, I'm kind of on the downward end of my career. I'm gonna go over here and make as much money as I can." Bryson, though, we hear from Koba's executive that he's looking for a unicorn of drivers. Nobody's ever gonna forget when he called Augusta a par 67 for his game, and I think ever since then he's shot over par. I don't think he's ever had.
Plus 68. He's plus 68, they said.
Yeah, so, that's great, but, I mean, again, the only thing that made me upset about how well Liv did this weekend was seeing Patrick Reed up there. I can't stand the guy.
I didn't want to admit it, but I got a $5 free bet and I put it on him Thursday morning, and it was starting to look really good there for a second.
Yeah, when they were coming down the back nine and all of a sudden
Yeah,
he's making shots and we're texting our group text, I was like, "Is Patrick Reed, of all people, about
I
to end
was
up winning?" I was
I
pissed.
was at work and I'm just getting updates of like the top players and
Yeah,
then like the big movers, and all of a sudden I see Patrick Reed. I'm like, oh my god, is he actually
yeah.
doing
Like, I'm
something?
watching all of a sudden, like, I look over and I see Reed 3 shots
Hmm.
back. I was like, he has 6 holes left to play. At that point, he was on a birdie train. I was like, "He's gonna do it." And then luckily, I mean, he hit, I think, 2 bogeys on, like, the last 3 holes, and I was like, "Alright, well, that kinda subsided it." But, uh
So there for a second, we kind of talked about how with Tiger and Mickelson, it comes easy to play the tournament. I mean, it should be easy if you play 4 rounds at a course for 15 years.
yeah.
It should be much easier for someone like that than, let's say, um, Scotty Scheffler or something like
Mhm.
that. But then to the contrary, you also have beginners luck. First time playing the course, you don't know what to expect. You're just hitting shots. And Sam Bennett.
Sam Bennett.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it was crazy to watch what was happening there. He went out with Max Homa and Scotty Scheffler, two of the biggest names in PGA golf right now,
yeah, and
and
outshot them.
outshot them the first 2 days. Like, it's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah. Yes, shout out to Sam Bennett. He did end up not playing in his, college tournament. He just
Yeah.
observed this weekend. I don't know if you saw that, but, I don't blame him. I would not have wanted to walk 36 holes and carry my own bag, the day after playing 4 rounds at Augusta. Um, but, I mean, it was unfortunate to see him miss out on the automatic invite back next year. He
Mhm.
needed to finish in the top 12, and he missed that by 2 strokes. So unfortunate to see there. We're gonna move on. We brought it up earlier with Patrick Cantlay, pace of play. He got a lot of blame and mainly came from Brooks Koepka. I have not seen anything yet. John Rahm from John Rahm's end. I don't know if he was upset about it or speaking out
He
about
just
it.
confirmed the comments that Brooks Koepka had made about his bathroom breaks. He had
Okay.
confirmed that he definitely didn't have to worry about not being able to go to the bathroom because of the camera time and stuff like that. He had ample amount of
Right.
time.
Um, but and they were talking about this even before Cantlay teed off, even before, obviously Koepka and Rahm would have teed off. But the first 2 holes, just the way they are set up, it is bound to cause backups. I believe they
Mhm.
said every group was basically after like the first 4 had gone through, every group is waiting 20 minutes after they
Yeah.
finished up 1 to tee off on 2, just because you have to wait for everybody to get down there and clear out and so on and so forth. And that was causing a lot of headaches and causing everybody to then back up. But I think Cantlay is fairly getting, a fair amount of blame for backing play up even farther. I got here. So Jordan Spieth, his round took 4 hours and 30 minutes. Rahm's round took an additional 15 minutes to finish. Um, and we definitely have hard evidence that, Cantlay was causing the backup, and he is a notorious slow player. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. He likes to take his time with shots. He was definitely getting under Hovland's skin. We saw it. I think it was 13 or 14 when Cantlay's still walking up the fairway. Hovland goes up to the green, hits his chip shot, and then waits for Cantlay to come up. It was his turn. He didn't take his, out of turn. But um, just your thoughts on the entire pace of play. It's kind of scandal, I'll call it, that's come out here the last 2 days.
I think that the PGA should have taken care of it sooner. I think that you and I could go out as a twosome playing at a busy course on a Saturday, and we could take a case of beer and we could have that and the round finished in 4 hours. I mean, I I think especially when there are specific time limits on how long you're able to spend at each hole. Now, obviously, like you said, with hole 1 and 2, there was a lot of tree play, a lot of like everyone's playing from the pine needles and stuff like that, or at least one of the 2 players in the
Mhm.
group are playing from there. So, like you said, it's bound to cause backups. But I think that I don't know. I think if a non-live player would have been complaining the way Brooks was, I think that there would have been possibly a little bit of quicker action with what was going on. I mean, when Hovland, the person you're playing with, who seems like a super nice dude, is also starting to kind of draw problems with it. You've got to think that there's something going on because he could have easily just used it to his advantage. Like, I'm not the one causing problems here, but I'm going to definitely take the extra time to get to look at my ball, get a better look at this putt. The different
Mhm.
things. Like, it's not going to hurt. So yeah, I just think that I think the pace of play, it definitely seems like it causes a problem for some people. Um, Brooks, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, also had a problem at one of the tournaments with pace of play, but it was on a Saturday. It wasn't a Sunday when he was in the lead or something like that. But
But
I
that was
think that
with Bryce and DeChambeau, and that's what started
correct,
their whole rivalry,
correct.
and feud or whatever you wanna call it.
But yeah, I mean, I think everyone views Brooks as sort of this wild, maybe sometimes hothead or something like that in the PGA world. But then you also hear like Tiger call him Brooksy instead of Brooks, and like it's so hard to read what kind of person he actually is. You saw like the disappointed "woe is me" like him in Full Swing,
Mhm.
and then you see the way that he was able to converse and like sounded very positive and like I mean he could have came out and completely blamed Patrick Cantlay and like just the fact that they had to play so many holes on a Sunday and just anything that he wanted to, but he just congratulated John Rahm, said that it was great playing, loves playing against top talent, different things like that, and kind of went about his business.
Yeah. Um, Another thing, you kinda touched on this earlier with the Masters coverage. A lot of people are very upset about it. I think the one viral TikTok I saw, obviously, every golf creator was talking about it. my favorite viral TikTok was the guy who was watching the Golf Channel and was absolutely freaking out that he was watching four guys sitting around a campfire and talking, and everybody's commenting like, "You dipshit!" Like Golf Channel is not covering the Masters aside from, "Hey, we can show you a couple highlights, but we're
Right.
gonna come back and we're gonna talk about it." That was my favorite video, but you and I were both kind of perturbed by this. I would say, like you brought up the fact that almost no live guy was getting any coverage
Hmm.
outside of Koepka and Reed and the guys who were towards the top of the leaderboard when it switched to a main feed on CBS or ESPN. My what I didn't understand, and I understand the Masters and Augusta National controls everything that that gets put out. Um, but every other tournament we go to season long, there's always a main feed throughout the day. I mean, a lot of tournaments it goes to ESPN Plus. ESPN Plus carries the main feed until the Golf Channel or NBC, whoever picks it up. Um, I didn't understand why there wasn't. I understand the focus on feature groups and all this other stuff, but there was like what 8 feature groups, and I don't want to sit
Hmm.
there. And, I might get tired of watching the same 8 guys or 8 groups play golf all day. Like I would like to see, hey, what's going on all around the course. Like keep me updated on the leaderboard as we're watching. I didn't understand the fact that there was no main feed throughout the day until you got to 3 o'clock most days, and then ESPN or CBS picked up the coverage. Luckily on Sunday, we got it at 2 o'clock rather than, whenever. But just
Well,
your
and even
thoughts on.
On Thursday when I was watching, there was only two feature groups you could watch. The
Mhm.
one was like, uh, it was like Woods's group and like someone else's group, and then there was another one that you could click on that was two separate groups. So you could only watch four groups. Like it was that was how it was Thursday morning when I first started watching. Now later on they might have changed it. I had to do some things, so I wasn't able to watch the complete coverage like to its entirety each day. But that's what I was confused about also because like you had said with other tournaments, I mean, there's usually like featured groups, but then you can also watch like the other groups play, by just by clicking on like, oh, this is Rory's group or this is, whoever's and it was just weird that it was the coverage was definitely different. And like you had said, the Masters they control a lot of that stuff that goes in and out, but it seemed like they really missed the ball on from a coverage standpoint.
Yeah, it was just super frustrating because I mean, you're sitting there, you're waiting. I mean, they alternate. I mean, I understand Friday, day two, and I'll talk about this here in a second. But whoever starts in the morning on Thursday is now the afternoon group on
Mhm.
Friday, and so there was just again, I just do not understand why there couldn't be some kind of main feed on the even the Augusta app, and so we can sit there and watch it. I understand they were kind of pairing that through ESPN Plus, and whatever, but um, just having no main feed throughout the day until that late afternoon
Yeah.
window started, I did not really understand. Last thing we'll talk about with the Masters here is your biggest disappointment. Obviously, Rory McIlroy not even making the cut. I think he finished +4, misses the cut. And so, other than Rory, who was your biggest disappointment for the Masters league?
Corey Connors or
Yeah,
no, I
or
think
as Nick put
Davis.
it,
Davis.
Corey connects.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But uh, but yeah, I mean, I definitely thought that Corey Connors was going to do better. I had told you I picked Corey Connors instead of Cam Young because
Mhm.
I thought that I didn't think that Cam Young was going to be able to compete on the same level that Corey Connors was there, even with the new caddy. Boy, was I wrong because he was at the top of the leaderboard, not in first ever, but he was, second, third, fifth, in the top 10 basically the entire weekend.
Yeah, um, uh, I think Corey Connors is a big one. Everybody just saw him coming off that huge win at the Valero
Hmm.
Texas Open. I know there was a ton of money on him this weekend that a lot of people lost.
You're telling me.
But yeah, I mean, I wasn't on the Corey Connors hype train coming in this weekend just because I mean, I feel like we've seen it so many times. You win the week before, and now you turn around and you're going to such a huge event like the Masters. It's just so much different pressure, so much different competition. And ultimately see him completely struggle. I have a few different picks for disappointment. First up is Jordan Spieth. If and I said this and I put this on Twitter, and almost nobody responded, which I didn't understand. But I mean, whatever. Um, but on Thursday was putting together an awesome round. I think he was 5 under, and then all of a sudden he gets I think it's 13, and he puts a ball in the water. I'm like, "What are you doing?" It was such an unnecessary shot too. Like he did not need to put that ball where he did, and he shanks into the water. And then I
He
think
liked
again
it so
on
much. Yeah,
yeah
he liked it so
on
much he did it again.
on 15 or 16 he did it again. I'm just sitting there like what are we doing? And then sure enough, you jump ahead to Sunday. And of course he bogeys 18, so that didn't help. But he had a chance to put him. I mean, you take those. What did that come out to be? I think
It was like 5 shots that
yeah
he had
total.
missed
So
with
I would
water and
say
stuff, yeah.
yeah we'll call it 4 shots. You give
Mhm.
him those 4 shots, and he's in that final group. He's with John Rahm, and he doesn't bogey 18. He's your winner. So just frustrating for me, and that's why I was disappointed in him. But my other two are Max Homa and Dustin Johnson. Homa +6 on Sunday was kind of looked like he was putting it together Sunday morning, and he goes out there and shoots +6 in the final round. Just I how highly I think of him and how huge of a fan of him I am. It just sucks seeing that. But it's okay. He's winning the U.S. Open. We're fine. And Dustin Johnson. I mean, you and I both talked about this last week. He was on a top 12 streak at the Masters. Won there in 2020. Had I think if anybody would have benefited from the reduced schedule of Live, it'd be Dustin Johnson. He shoots +8 total. He's never really a threat. So that was kind of disappointing for me to see. Um, Before we get into our RBC Heritage stuff, we got to remind you guys that our merch is live right now. Make sure you guys head over there and check that out. Link is in the bio. We do have a Bunker Boys hat live. I got to update this picture. But if you want to get your Bunker Boys hat, and then we're working on shirts and stuff as well, link in bio, or head over to jack-wagon-merch.creator-spring.com. But please just click
Say
the link
that
in
5
bio.
times fast.
Yeah. I can't. But let's go ahead. Let's give our RBC Heritage fantasy picks. As I click on the wrong thing. But Slade, we'll let you go. Actually, I lied. We're gonna give. There's a final leaderboard that I never brought up, but
I like it.
give you guys an update on the standings. Nick still leads the way at 356. Slade, you got 352, and I have 323. I'm just dragging ass these last few weeks. So hopefully I can get it back on track. But now it's Slade, time for your picks for the RBC Heritage this weekend.
Yeah, so first up, I have Patrick Cantlay. I just think that he's gonna have to flip that switch here. He's won here before and really competed with Spieth, right?
Yeah.
So I just think that it's a smart pick altogether, and I think that he's going to be able to at least get me some really good fantasy points this week, whether it's a win or not. I think that he's definitely going to be in the top 10. Cameron Young, I'm flipping ship. No Corey Connors this week. I'm riding the caddy ordeal that George has talked about every week for like the last month. I'm definitely going with him. I hope that I don't jinx him and that the rest of the season is downhill spiral for him. But Colin Morikawa, this is one that you guys could see come next week when we talk about it. I might change Ricky Fowler in for him. I have real buyer's remorse for putting Morikawa in here. I was talking with you during the podcast, and I was like, I'm really really close to pulling someone out and putting Fowler in. And thinking about it, I think that Colin might be the one that has to sit. Um, Next is Thigala. Just getting to see them pair the video of Tiger and him hitting the same exact shot there and letting it roll in at the same hole this past week. Did you get to see
Mhm.
that video?
I did, yeah.
Um, yeah, it just got me pumped. The fact that he told his parents that they have to quiet down from the normal selves at the Masters because they're like just, super cheerful parents yelling for him the entire time. He's like, you can't do that at the Masters this week. I think it's awesome. I'm definitely on board with him. Jordan, because I mean, you were half right in saying that Easter Sundays are his thing. He was definitely on Easter Sunday, just to get the win, and I think he's going to carry it over to this week. He's really good at this course, and so I think that he's definitely a good pick for fantasy. And then John Rahm, you and I had talked before this also. He's playing. Not quite sure how many like he might get there Wednesday and do one practice round.
I think he got there today.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
today's Wednesday, so
well,
that's
yeah, I was gonna
perfect.
say
Yeah.
this was
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he definitely it's just like winning the Masters is like winning the Daytona 500. You kind of lose time for the next week compared to everyone else because you have to go on this media tour then afterwards and whatnot, and so I'm sure that his head hurt for a couple of days after celebrating, especially with the whole Zach Ernst and JJ Watt
Yeah.
there in their group text, and that was really cool to see.
Uh,
But yeah, that's my picks for this week. Like I said, Rory or Ricky might make it into the lineup. I don't know yet.
so going over my picks, I have a lot of the same guys. First up, Patrick Cantlay, like you said, lost in the playoff last year. He is a previous winner here, but I think more so than anything, just kind of like needs a response to the critics. I mean, he's got a lot of flack this week for his pace of play. He's answered the questions in the media, but you can tell, there's a little bit of a fire there. I think he wants to get a huge regular season win. I don't think he's won an in-season tournament, aside from the playoffs. But that's what I mean is he hasn't won it except for the playoffs. I think in 2021 maybe. Um, Next up, Max Homa. I think he needs a huge bounce back week. He needs to get his season back on track. Ever since winning those two tournaments early in the season, I think he's kind of fallen off. But I expect him to start building some momentum here and put together some solid finishes. I think it starts this week. Victor Hovland. I think I don't know if the pace of play was affecting him as well, if he just couldn't put rhythm together, on Sunday, but he looked so good Sunday morning, and all of a sudden round 4 starts, and he just could not build any momentum, and he comes up short, but I think he's playing really good golf right now. He looked really good at the Players, and again, last week at like I just said, at Augusta. So I think he's gonna continue his streak here and continue to look well.
Mhm.
Morikawa, uh, s- he struggled in his last 2 rounds at the Masters, still ended up finishing inside, I think, the top 10, or at least the top 15. But I think he's still hungry to win ever since he let the Century Tournament of Champions slip through his fingers, Nick jinxed him, saying he was gonna win 7 times this year. Um, I think he is still one of the best iron players on tour if he could just clean up his putting. I mean, and he has definitely made strides this season. But I think he's gonna do well this weekend. Uh, Thagala, same as you, finishes T9 at the Masters, or not even T9. He was solo ninth at the Masters. Shot 5 under in his final round. I think he's finally understood the pressure that comes with being on the PGA Tour. Ever since we saw him stumble at the end of the Phoenix Open last year, he's just looked more and more confident every week. And then just
Mhm.
how good he looked at the Masters in the final round. I think the sky is a limit for this guy. I think Thagala and Young have their first wins coming anytime soon. And last but not least, John Rahm. I can't fade Rahm at this point. I understand there's probably a little bit of a hangover. And you and I were talking about how serious is he going to take the tournament this weekend. Um, but I doubted him enough this year. I don't think I can do it this week. But he'll be my reserve. He's on my bench right now. We'll see how he looks day one, day two, before I put him in. Last thing I want to talk about before we move on to our bets. Is I don't know if you saw, but it was discussed. Of course, Cameron Young wears the huge MLB patch on his polo every round. Um, and apparently he is close friends. And I can't think of what is the MLB commissioner's name.
Rob
Rob
Manfred or
Manfred,
something.
yeah, Rob
Yeah.
Manfred. But they're close friends, and that's how he got the sponsorship. Um, but it came out, so part of the contract is he gets free tickets to any MLB game he wants to go to. So I'm a little jealous of that. Um, Looking at our RBC Heritage betting picks, we've really sucked the last few weeks. I had Zalatoris
We were
withdrawal.
almost there this past week with a plus 3,800
Yeah.
or
Well, you
3,600,
were,
whatever it
I'll
was.
say.
That's the podcast. That's us.
Yeah,
You're the
but
one that types it up after I put it in there. You could be like, yeah, we're definitely not putting that in. Plus
no.
3,600, that's not hidden.
Um, but yeah, I had who was it? Scheffler and McIlroy to finish in the top 10. McIlroy doesn't make the cut. I don't think Scheffler even finished top 10.
No.
And then of course I had Zalatoris finishing top 20. He withdraws. Luckily before the tournament even started, so it pushed the bet.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think I have not hit one yet. I think you hit one during the match play, but or not match play after match play, but
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll get it on track this week. That or just fade us and just put money on the opposite, and you'll be
On
set.
the field.
Yeah. So Slade, we'll have you go over yours first.
Yeah. So first, kind of a long shot, but I mean, betting any week after Scheffler had won last year would have been a long shot and it would have cashed. Rahm plus 850, I think is generous for someone that just won. Uh, pretty handedly, like you had said. Like, he was behind, he just played his game until Brooks made mistakes, and he just got his shots when he could, got the lead, and then just never let go. And then sticking with Rahm and the other Mr. Perfect, it seems like this time of year, Scheffler. I think that T10 for them at plus 330 is very generous. I think that realistically, I think that it would probably be somewhere around like plus 150 uh, if Rahm hadn't won last week.
Mhm.
And so I think that's very generous, and that's why I went with those two.
Yeah. So for my picks, so this is for round one. I have Sahith Theegala winning a head-to-head match against JJ Spawn. I mean this with all due respect to JJ Spawn. Obviously, he's a professional golfer, and I am not. But I, I don't think this is really going to be that close. I mean, we only see Spawn competitive, obviously at match play when he just decides he wants to beat, everybody that's ranked 60 positions ahead of him. Um, but I think Thigala, like I said in my fantasy picks, I think he's just too hot right now. He's only building more confidence as he goes. I think he's gonna have a strong round one tomorrow. And also took Fowler finishing top 20 at plus 225.
Love it.
Yeah, he's a little upset that he didn't make the Masters with the win at the Valero. But again, we've talked about it so many times this year on the podcast. He just continues to impress every week. From what we saw last year from Ricky Fowler and Jason Day is another one. These are two guys that the last 2 years watching them, I would have been like, all right, they're going to retire any day. These are the guys that should be taking the live money. But no, they've worked super hard on their game. Fowler is getting back to his own self. I really do think it's only a matter of time until he wins. So I'm going to take Fowler finishing in the top 20 at plus 225. So Ricky, I'm sorry, probably not going to make the cut now. So Slade, you might not want to put him in your.
I think you picked two very great bets. I don't know. I don't know who picked Thigala and Spawn to be matched up against one another. It doesn't seem like a very just looking at it based on their recent play.
I
It doesn't
think they
look
do
like
it like I
something
think
that
they're
you
in a
would want to
group
put.
together. So I think they
Right, but
they
who's the other
group.
person? You would think
I
that
don't.
they would put like that person with either that person has to be between these two players, is what I'm
Yeah,
saying, in
yeah,
my opinion. But yeah, and then I think that Fowler, like you said, I think he's going to be mean mugging it around this course. Like, definitely going to be pissed that he missed the Masters, obviously to his own problem. Like, he didn't
right.
play enough recently, and he didn't play good enough. But but yeah, I think that T20 for him is a great bet, and to be able to get it at plus 225 is something that I'm definitely gonna be putting in here as soon as
Yeah.
we get off the podcast.
Yeah, hopefully, we can turn our picks around here. Um, but before we end the show, no growing our game this week, but the huge news came out from the PGA Tour. And they've released their fall schedule. They said they're not going to release the full schedule until sometime this summer. But this will be their new updated fall. Obviously, they're moving to a more calendar-based schedule with a lot of their
Mhm.
top guys, at least. And so the season will start as always with the Century Tournament of Champions out in Hawaii. But after the FedEx Cup ends in early September, this will be the new schedule going forward. Um, so it's 7 events that are fully designated PGA FedEx Cup events. There will be 3 exhibition events as well. One of those is the PNC Championship, where we see Tiger and Charlie Woods always play together. The new one this year is the Grant Thornton Invitational, where the PGA and the LPGA players are teaming up. We talked about that last year when we watched the DP World Tour do that. I said I thought it would be an awesome event to bring over. I don't think it's quite going to be done the same way. This is like a team event as compared to last year, which is an individual event. But still, I think that's gonna be a lot of fun to see. And the promotional material that Ricky Fowler and excuse me, I don't know the lady's name. I think it's Kelly Norda, but I think that's even wrong. But um, the promotional event or the commercials they're putting out are hilarious. Um, they've already said they're not wearing orange as their team color, which I thought was dumb. I think that's the best color to wear. But um, so the 7 events are going to be the Fortinet Championship, Sanderson Farms, the Shriners Open, the Zozo Championship, the Worldwide Weather WWT Championship is what I'm calling it. I always get that mixed up because I
Mhm.
believe they sponsor the Gateway race for NASCAR as well.
Yep.
Um, Worldwide Technologies, that's what it is. Yeah,
Yep.
okay. And then
Worldwide Teachers Union.
yeah, the Butterfield Bermuda Championship, and the RSM Classic. Notable events missing. The CJ Cup is gone. There's no word on if that event will ever reappear again. Obviously, the WGC event it was has been off for the last few years, and there's no rumor of that being brought back as well. So the match play technology will most likely be the last ever World Golf Championship event ever played. Um, the Houston Open is also missing from the fall schedule, but the PGA announced today that'll now become a spring event, probably right around the time of the Valero Open. Just keep it in Texas there. Um, but so the way it'll work, everybody outside the top 70 in the FedEx Cup who doesn't make the playoffs will go to these events.
Mhm.
And now everybody's going to fight to try and stay inside the top 125 to keep their tour exemption status or the tour card, I should say. Um, and so the winners, if you win an event in the fall, it still carries the same weight as any other event would. So you get your 2-year exemption for the tour. You get locked into the Masters, the Players, the PGA Championship, and the Century Tournament of Champions. So, Slay, just your thoughts on this. I mean, we knew a lot of this was coming, but it's nice to see the PGA fleshing out the plan for what the updated schedule is going to look like heading in the next year.
Yeah, I mean, I really like, you had mentioned the Zozo champion, the, Century, and I mean, I'm a big fan of the PNC. Like you had said, it's an exhibition. It's not, the FedEx, but I really like it. I like that Justin Thomas plays with his dad, Tiger plays with his son. I just really like the style of play. I liked it this past year because especially you got to see Charlie letting little notes in the sand traps for Justin Thomas or what just different things.
Mhm.
I really like the nature of how the tournament is played out. It's almost played out uh, a lot like the match. Uh,
Right.
events that they had done previously here, and so I just think that it's a really cool way to kind of get families involved and really just kind of show that it is just a game.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a super fun event to watch, and it does just enough to, like, scratch your golf itch over the
Mhm.
winter, when there's not much going on and you're like, "Alright, I'm ready for real competitive golf to come back." It's obviously not the Masters, but it is a lot of fun to
Yeah,
see a lot of these guys tee it up, and especially, like you said, with their family. Tiger and Charlie going out there is always fun to watch. But I'm super excited. This is gonna add a lot of fun and drama to the fall season. Whereas before, this is when a lot of and again, the top guys are still probably going to shut it down and relax. But we're still watching guys fight to keep their tour card. This isn't just going to be, with all due respect to Seamus Power, he's not going to go out there and he might still win these two tournaments, but he's not going to be in the top 10 of the FedEx Cup for the first 6 months of next year
right.
because he played all these events, got all these points, and built it up until the real guys, the top dogs, showed up and started playing. Um, it still makes me laugh every time they bring up the FedEx Cup points and you see Seamus Power just every week just drifts back like another couple positions, and then I think this past week he just fell out of the top 10. I gotta look. Um,
I mean,
but
in terms of money, it's thousands of dollars that he's potentially giving himself at the end of the year,
mhm,
uh, with that play. But like you said, it is very misleading at the beginning of the season to see someone like him up there, and then you get someone like Rahm or Scheffler that comes in and plays one FedEx tournament, and all of a sudden, boom, they're up in the top 10. And
all right, here we go. Is he still in the top 10? He is. He is number 10 right now. He is 4 points
good for
off
him.
Tony Finau. Then 11th place is Tom Kim, about 60 points behind him, and then Thigala and Taylor Moore are 12th and 13th. But
Mhm.
again, still my favorite part of all this is Ricky Fowler is 26th and he's gaining points. Um, so I'm excited. I just want to see him keep going up. Obviously, I think at this point, unless something drastic happens, he's going to be locked into the FedEx Cup playoffs. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and that means he's in the designated events next year as well. So um,
Right.
that will do it for our show tonight. We thank you guys for checking us out as always. Don't forget, head over to w.gg, use code JackWagon for 10% off your order. Also, use the link in our bio and go check out our merch store. We greatly appreciate it. We'll be back next week to break down the RBC Heritage. Um, not thrilled about having a designated event the week after the Masters, but it is what it is. But we'll be back next week. Like I said, we're going to break down the RBC Heritage. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the Zurich Classic of New Orleans, which actually is a super fun event. It's the team event. And so we're going to have a lot of fun with that as well. But again, like I said, that'll do it for our show. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you in the next episode.
Yes, sir.